Okay, so hopefully at this point you have your personalized coat rack designed, and you're ready to go ahead and export the parts that are going to be laser cut to export those as an SVG or a vector file. So the first thing I'd like you to do is take the template that you've been working through, and I want you to leave what you have because I want to see the design you've come up with and leave opportunities for changing it. So what I want you to do is duplicate your work, right? So you click on this little gear and you hit duplicate. And this way, your original file that has the design stays intact because we're going to make big changes to this duplicate. So as I mentioned, this is kind of like a two-step project where, sorry, I just want to give you a better view. First step is designing what it's supposed to look like, which I have here. And then the next step is just preparing and exporting that SVG or that vector file. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and again, this is the duplicate, so I don't want you to delete things away from your original. I'm going to basically get rid of everything that's not going to be laser cut, right? So these are the things that I've created, my letters, my unique shapes, and I want to prepare these as a laser cutting file. Now, the way we do that is we have to recognize how Tinkercad reads and creates vector files. So vector files, even though we're starting with a 3D object, vector files are two-dimensional. It's just like a line drawing. And what Tinkercad does is it chooses only the objects that are crossing through your work plane, and it has to be the original work plane. So if you had a work plane that you created earlier, which you probably did, and it's orange like this, the first thing you have to do is reset that work plane. So, just make a new work plane and just drag it to empty space. The blue work plane is what Tinkercad recognizes um, as the intersecting surface to create a vector. Now, speaking of intersecting, it will only create a vector of the things that are cutting through the work plane. So what I'm going to do is exaggerate my shape. I'm going to make it way thicker than it probably needs to be, just so I can be absolutely sure it's cutting through the work plane. Now, depending on the way you've placed these and how many work planes you created, you might have a situation where some of your stuff is, they're at different heights relative to the work plane. So if you want to just make sure that everything is in a good spot, what you can do is you can select those things. Let's see if we can do it all at once. If you hit D when you have a selected object, D drops things down to the work plane. Now, if you do it all at once, like I just tried, because I just wanted to see what would happen, it's only going to bring the lowest object to the work plane. So you have to kind of select them individually if they're at different heights, or if they're staggered. So as I hit D, like I said, it's just going to drop things down to the work plane. Now, being on the work plane is the first step, but we really have to be through the work plane. But putting things on the work plane means all I need to do is just drag it down a little bit, and now I know that absolutely every object has the work plane cutting through it, and that's what we're looking for. Okay, so that's step one. Is just to make sure that um, location-wise, we're in a spot where it's going to create a vector file. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to be efficient with the plywood because this is going to be cut from plywood. Now, while this is the layout that I'm going to be gluing down my letters, this is how I want my sign to look. It is not an efficient way to cut with the laser cutter because if I just cut it exactly in the orientation that it is now, I would have a bunch of wasted space and wood to the left of the word room between Mr. and Rothstein. Right, I have these gaps that I don't want. So what I'm going to do, understanding that each of these is going to be cut out individually, is I want to kind of just make this closer together, right? Be as efficient as I can, which might involve ungrouping things if they've been grouped. And you want to make sure that things are pretty close together, but you don't want anything touching or overlapping because you don't want them to be merged into one shape. For this, I might choose to rotate this. If I really want to get efficient, which I do, I could even take this apostrophe, which is sticking out, where it's making my whole object a little bit taller than it needs to be. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's exactly 90, but I'm just doing it. I can like bring that into here. This, you know what I would even do? This S could probably fit. Let's find out. In the goalpost. So to me, that's a much more efficient situation, right? So if I exported this, it's going to take up a lot less space on the plywood for me to cut this out. So that's what I want you to do: is make sure the work plane, the blue work plane, not the orange one, the work plane is cutting through your shapes, every single one of them. And these could be 10 feet tall. Like, it really wouldn't matter. So I don't want you to worry about the exact heights of these as long as the work plane is cutting through them. So work plane's cutting through, and I've rearranged my shapes to be more of like an efficient rectangle. That's what I want. Once I have those two things, we're going to export an SVG. And it even says for laser cutting. That's the extension. That's the file type to create a laser cutting file. And then you can see I have it here in my downloads. And then you're going to submit this through Canvas. And when you're in Canvas and you're looking for your file that you just created, for most of us, it's going to be, like I said, in your download folder. So you can look here on the left. You can click on downloads, and it's going to be here. Mine's copy of name sign template, but yours will have a different name. And that's it. That's the file that I need to be able to laser cut this for you.